one year in Mayapur, I remember the Lotus building was still under construction, and so the roof was still cement and bars and so on. But we were living in the building in whatever state it was in. And that year, a devotee named Gayatri Dasi from Gainesville had baked a cake and it had come along to Mayapur, like with her husband, or somehow this came. And it fell into the hands of the sannyasis. They were the senior guys, and they were able to commandeer this cake. They got this cake, and they all did it up. But she'd traveled from Miami to perhaps London, and finally on to Delhi, and then on to Calcutta, and then the drive to Mayapur. So many days and hours and hot sun, and this cake had become poison. And I remember seeing sannyasis just writhing in pain, laid out on the roof of the Lotus building, just retching and wretched. And I was glad I wasn't a sannyasi at the time. I was just a brahmachari. But we were, what to do? We should take them to a hospital. These men could die. Prabhupada said that they should take some charnamrita from the deities, and they would be all right. Just regularly take some charnamrita, they'll be all right. And they were. One time, I don't remember the context, but I think Radha Ballava and I were standing on the veranda in Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada. And I remember it was warm weather, and Prabhupada had a freshly shaved head, and perhaps he wasn't wearing more than just an uttariya to cover his chest. And he was standing in the sunlight, as I recall. And Prabhupada just sort of rubbed his head in a characteristic way. And he said, anything good you want to do, he said, you'll have to go through so much trouble. I believe it was on that same walk, we suddenly came to a kind of a mandap. There was a raised concrete platform with a roof, like a tin roof over it. And if I recall, there was a little music playing. And Prabhupada got up on the mandap to see. And he saw that it was a deity of Durga. And Prabhupada offered his full dandavats before the Durga deity. Then, as I remember, he sat up perhaps on his knees and he was looking at the deity. And he was saying that, he quoted, Shristi stiti pralaya sadhana shakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani bibharti Durga. That Durga is also conducting her affairs in obedience to the order of Govinda. Said, so the gopis said, we are also offering our respect to Durga, but not like the materialists. Give me this, give me this, give me this. The gopis were worshipping Katyayani, which means Durga, that my dear goddess, you're always carrying out the order of Krishna, so you're very dear to Krishna, you're his devotee. So please give us your benediction so that we can become engaged in the service of Krishna. In that way, Prabhupada said. And Prabhupada said it very feelingly. I remember Prabhupada practically, he had tears in his eyes. He was speaking very feelingly, offering respect to Durga in relationship to Krishna. He used to come down from his room in Bombay, from his quarters, although his health wasn't good, his health was quite poor, but he would come down for the Guru Puja. And he told us one time, this Guru Puja is very important. This Guru Puja, attend. It's very important. And he was explaining the song, Sri Guru Charana Padma. At one point he came to a line, he said, "What is that line?" Where he was asking for a line. He said, "Every day you are singing these verses, but you do not know what they mean." He was cross with us. I considered it very significant. The last Bombay Pandal program that Srila Prabhupada did was in 1977, March 23rd, 24. And Srila Prabhupada's health was extremely bad. I remember that he was so weak that Bhavananda and Tamal Krishna Maharaj they would just carry Prabhupada onto the stage. On his own strength, he couldn't get onto the stage. They would just carry him and practically just deposit him on the asana. And Prabhupada, I remember the first day, Prabhupada's sitting and he's just, how to say it, just seemed to be no energy, just sitting in almost exhaustion of energy, sitting on the asana. And he had Bhavananda read from Bhagavatam. And Bhavananda, it was from the section Svavid Varahostra Karaya Samstuta Purusha Pashu, second canto. So he had him read, and then Prabhupada began to speak. I remember his opening words were that I have come to encourage you and be encouraged by you. And he didn't say much, just very little bit, and then Prabhupada would have Bhavananda read more, and Prabhupada was sitting, just kind of without energy, sitting on the stage, and Bhavananda would read, and then Prabhupada would say a few words, and Bhavananda would read, and Prabhupada would say a little more, and Bhavananda would read more, and then Prabhupada would say more, and soon Prabhupada was speaking, and soon he was roaring. Prabhupada got so inspired that he just began preaching triple strong, so that at the end of the lecture he was just full of power, and full of energy, and full of strong preaching. And he finished his talk, and then he called for questions. And I remember some of the questions on these 2 days. One person got up and said that, "I see that you have got the picture of Krishna, but you are not having any picture of Ram. Why there is no picture of Ram?" And the man said, and Prabhupada said, "The name is there." And again the man was saying, "But there's no picture." And but the name is there. And Prabhupada just strongly was preaching that there's no difference between the name and the person whose name it is. And just drove that point home. Another time, another question, a man got up, sort of a sophisticated, college-educated, intellectual sort of a person, or a person with an intellectual kind of a demeanor, and got up and said, "Sir, can you prove by logic that there is God?" And Prabhupada said, "You do not know what is logic." And again the man said, "Sir, can you demonstrate, can you prove by logic that there is God?" And Prabhupada said, "You do not know what is logic." And I think a third time, "Sir, by logic, can you prove?" "You do not know what is logic. There is a mother, material nature, and there are children, the living entities. Therefore, there must be a father. That's logic. Now take it." And the crowd just cheered. It was so great how Prabhupada just finished him. "That's logic. Now take it."